Welcome to the Men's Line Podcast, a community of strong men through knowledge, growth, and leadership. With your host, Alex Montenegro.
Thank you all for tuning in. This podcast was born out of conversations, questions, and ultimately the desire to be a better man, a better husband, and a better father. We're going to cover a wide range of topics from dating, marriage, politics, health, and pop culture. We would love to hear any comments and ideas from you, so send that over to our Instagram page at the Men's Line Podcast or email at info@themenslineofficial.com. Please be sure to give us a 5-star rating, like, share, and subscribe. Help keep independent media and broadcasting alive by donating to our Patreon page at the Men's Line Podcast. So let's dive right in. Welcome, everyone. My name is Alex Montenegro, and joining me in the sidelines today is Tom Frucci and Carlos Borez. Now, I am so thrilled of our special guest today. So check this out. He's a former NHL defenseman, former Vancouver Canuck, 2010 Stanley Cup champion with the Chicago Blackhawks. But more importantly, he's an incredible human being dedicating his life for the purpose of raising dyslexia awareness. And, he has such an amazing story and testimony that I know is going to impact many lives. And I'm so humbled to introduce him today. Ladies and gentlemen, Brent Sopel. Brent, honestly, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Oh, for sure. Hey, Brent, how's the pandemic treating you?
I think we're at day 60 now. The walls are talking to me, but I think otherwise I'm okay.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I think we're feeling the same thing, especially with the weather. I'm not sure how it is in Chicago, but here in Vancouver, the weather is just beautiful. And we're just waiting for the parks to open up so we can go out and enjoy, finally get out of this.
Yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later. The weather's just slowly starting to start turning around. In Chicago, we don't see the sun all winter long. So we're all in to get outside too.
Oh, you and me both. But listen, Brent, you've achieved incredible things in your playing career. And at 33, you were diagnosed with dyslexia. So what was going on in your mind? Did it make sense to you? Was it closure?
It's it put some meaning behind it. Because I always, the key words for dyslexia are you're dumb, you're stupid, and you're lazy. Because they can't see it. It's our right brain's wired differently. So, when it happened, I'm like, okay, at least there was something there that I'm not, maybe dumb and stupid, like I was always called. So it put something behind it. But again, I've been living this for 33 years. And I was playing hockey. It wasn't like I was going to jump back into school or anything like that. So it didn't change any of my life at all until after I retired from hockey.
Tell us a little bit about your childhood and what it was like struggling through school, because I know you mentioned that quite a few times.
Yeah, I was reading at a grade 4 level in high school. So it wasn't a lot of fun. It was very painful. When you can look at left and right and see everybody else do the simple things and you can't, it ends up being very, very, very frustrating. And, they passed me through school. I quasi-graduate high school. But my education probably doesn't take me past grade 8. So a lot of pain and suffering in school. And it didn't all rise to the forefront until I retired from hockey.
Wow. And did you have any outlets to get away from it? Because that must have been pretty tough, right?
It was, again, I didn't know at the time. I thought I was dumb and stupid in school. So I just chalked it up to being that. And, hated every second of school, hated going there, hated everything to do with it. So I was happy when it was all said and done. I didn't have to deal with anymore. I didn't have to deal with the pain of struggling and always being that kid. Or, I ended up being a bully along the way with it, trying to, just manage myself. Again, didn't know until I was 33 what was going on. I look back now, a lot of it makes sense.
I read an article and the theme was kind of like you had a routine from a young age going into obviously being a professional hockey player. And I myself, although not a professional soccer player, was working as a coach. And basically they organize your transport, your house, like literally everything that you can imagine. They they do for you. So you don't even have to think about it. And then when you come out of that, you almost struggle to fend for yourself. So my question is basically having that routine from a young age all the way through your NHL career. What was it like when you left the NHL, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, so I had basically a routine and schedule for 40 years. And then when I walked away, I was lost. Like you said, told what time to be on the plane, what time to go here, what time. I had no idea what to do. Again, whenever you retire from a sport, doesn't matter what it is or a job, you got to have purpose in life. And I didn't have any. I didn't have. When I couldn't find a job because of my dyslexia. What was I doing? And that's when my drinking, my drugs really started to take control.
What sort of advice would you give to players that are playing in any sport or doing any career that has a certain shelf life, that what they could do during their career to kind of avoid that situation?
The day's going to end. We all don't want it to end, but just look at little things that you might be interested in. If you're looking at a class or a book or something a couple years before you retire, it doesn't mean you're trying to retire. It just means you're being smart. And NHL doesn't do a very good job, and none of the major sports do a very good job of preparing players for retirement, because it is so different than what we did our whole life.
And what do you think that the organizations can do to help you? What would you have loved to have had 2 years before you retired, like the NHL just come to you and say, hey, this is kind of a plan that we have in place for you guys?
Well, because everybody's like, oh, what do you want to do? I have no idea. I just played hockey for 40 years. So I couldn't answer it. I'm like, I don't know. Now, for me, struggling with dyslexia, I couldn't go back take other classes. Like some guys might be, want to go and do, sales job. They can go do some classes. I couldn't do that. So I had to, it's been a long 4 years to struggle to find a place where I could work, where I could get paid. It's been a long road. I had to learn a lot about myself.
So I read it that you were that you used to go in the farm you were living in Saskatchewan, I believe.
Yep.
So you really wanted to drive this tractor, but because your parents would allow you to drive it, you would literally push it uphill with one hand, and you said like a brick in the other. I mean, how old are you when this happened? And because that sounds so intense. I could just imagine like an 8-year-old you just doing that. Like for me personally, I would freak out. I'd be so scared.
Yeah, no, that was the normal thing. I probably started doing that, 5 or 6. When you grow up on a farm, you just kind of have a different mentality, and it's work, no matter what, because that's Mother Nature's in control. So I loved every second of it.
I just think about it and it just sounds so intense. So my next question is, how did you discover hockey? Because Saskatchewan is a pretty small place, but again, it is Canada, so it is like the sport. But how did you yourself discover it, and how did it become like your main go-to to get away from school work and being made fun of from you're struggling from reading and whatnot?
Yeah, my parents, my dad put me on skates when I was 2, so I was barely walking and I was skating already, and it just kind of evolved from there, because that was one thing that I was good at. So I struggled all day at school for 8 hours and have to do homework, and I was miserable. I had no self-esteem because I was struggling every day, all day long. The only place I was good at, or something I was good at, was hockey. So every second I could, I was on that ice just to go on there and not think. I turn my brain off and just go and have fun.
So when did the alcohol start becoming a part of your routine? Because I know you did mention that you would make sure you had like a 24-pack ready in your hotel room prior to your games and whatnot. How did that become part of your routine?
Well, alcohol is was everywhere. When I started drinking at a very young age, and I played junior hockey. Alcohol was there, pro hockey. It was everywhere, and that was just the way of life. Now guys are, in the night before games, they're doing yoga in their room and doing things like that. We were out, drinking beers and having dinner. It was just a different time frame now, and never again. the worst part for me is, after I retired from hockey when both of them got really, really out of control.
Brent, if you don't mind going back a little bit, if you can tell us about your experience of being diagnosed at the same time as your daughter, what was that like for you guys? And what was it like seeing your daughter going through the same thing you did at a young age?
Yeah, my ex-wife now, but my wife at that time, she started, seeing things that she's struggling. And, for myself, I struggled anyway. So, I didn't see it. We took her into the doctor to get an evaluation and came back. And that's when we found out she's dyslexic and dysgraphic and ADHD. And, I started doing more work and research and stuff with the doctor. And, lo and behold, it was me all over again.
How's the support network for someone that's getting diagnosed now, as opposed to what you had, which is essentially nothing?
Well, obviously it's better now, but it's still. I say my opinion that less than 20% of the population actually knows what it is.
And that's why we need a lot more awareness. I was reading an article and 40 million Americans have dyslexia, but only 2 million know about it.
Yeah.
I mean, those stats are just incredible. I'm one of those people that do think that the curriculum at school needs to change. I think it's super important because we're all put in one room, expected to learn the same level as everybody else, and it does not work. I know for me, I struggled a lot, and I had to go to I went the class clown route because it was just so much easier. I can get away with being, not knowing an answer, not knowing how to read a certain part in the book. I can get away with pretty much everything because, hey, I was a funny guy. As long as I made people laugh, that's all that mattered. But the reality is that I didn't know anything at all. I struggled so much. In fact, I know a lot of the teachers would speak to my parents and just tell them, hey, he's struggling, but we'll give him an incomplete and we'll move him forward and hopefully he tries better.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, yes, I am trying hard. I just don't get it.
It's easier. Next year, you're someone else's problem.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And that's why, Brent, you're doing such an amazing job because it's so critical that we get people out there realizing that there is a need. There are kids out there that are struggling with dyslexia and don't know it.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and the school system's set up for girls, and there's no boy who can sit for 8 hours quietly. So yeah, there's a lot of things, and we all learn differently. How can we configure something? You're right. You're 100% right. Something needs to be done now. How are we going to be able to do that? It's a work in progress right now.
Brent, I have to ask you something. There's been so many interviews and articles I read about you, and you always list God and faith as being instrumental in helping you overcome such hardships and alcohol abuse. So I have to ask you, how long have you been Christian for?
I was raised in the Catholic Church, and didn't go. We go on holidays and stuff like that, but it was always a major piece of me. And I lost sight in God for a while, but He sure brought me back. In rehab, and put me in certain places to allow me to flourish and be where I am today. As many days sober. So every day I got to thank Him, no question.
That's amazing. I think it's so important for us to have a belief in something, and in particular for you, God, because I mean, you can't do things alone, and so it's critical for you to have something that can put you back into place and guide you back to the direction you were meant to be on. Were you open about your faith with your teammates in your NHL playing career?
It was. I prayed. Before the game, and I had the cross, and so I had some rituals. But it took me retiring from the game and going through a lot of this for me to really get close to Him and really be where I need to be with Him.
That's amazing, incredible.
Yes,
I love
absolutely.
that so much. I've been wanting to ask you that for so long because I've seen so many people interview, and as soon as you mention that, they kind of lean away from that. But that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I asked you myself.
And I think that's
Yeah.
amazing that you always had a piece of you with him along the way. So he was always in your mind, whether he was at the forefront, like throughout your career. I'm sure he was guiding you and waiting for the right moment for you to realize that, for sure.
All my tattoos are a cross or things like that, serenity prayer. So yeah, it's everything to me.
So the process of going through rehab, what did that look like? Did you decide yourself that you were going to take the initiative and do it?
No, I had an intervention. So my agent, my dad, and a couple buddies, a round table intervention, and they threw me into rehab. I wouldn't have went. I was down my path, and I was doing my damage, and I was happy to be doing that damage. So they threw me in there, and I was in California for 45 days, and 100%, it's completely changed my life. I had to relearn my life. I had to relearn who I was, my learning disorders, learn how to love myself. So, it's been an amazing journey.
That's awesome. So through all of that learning, how do you perceive yourself now as opposed to pre-diagnosis?
Well, pre-diagnosed, I was, the big thing about part of dyslexia, it's the self-esteem. Struggling for so many years. I had none. I could only get it from hockey. So, like I said, I use it for a gas tank. My self-esteem has never been higher in a quarter tank because I've struggled at everything. And so I had to go back to, learning who I was. And, I had to do a lot of work and have to go back to, a lot of situations like that and to be okay. I had to re-love myself, and it wasn't easy.
Well, I'm glad that you're on a greater path and learning to love yourself and being able to move forward. And I mean, you're doing so many great things with raising awareness. So I want to ask you, can you tell us a little bit more about the Brent Sopel Foundation and how we can get involved?
Yeah, our website, brentsopelfoundation.org. Before I can, change the world, I got to educate the world.
True. Yeah.
And and that's the thing. When I said that, I only think about 20% of the population really knows exactly what dyslexia is. So, the Brent Sopel Foundation is really just to educate right now before we can change. I was a part of some legislation in Illinois, and up in Washington D.C. sometimes, and going up to Parliament. So I got a plan on changing the world. But right now, it's just trying to educate everybody and get everybody to understand that you got some smart kids that have the ability to change the world, but they're not going to get the opportunity because of the schooling system.
That's amazing. I commend you on that. I think it's such a critical thing to do, especially when dyslexia is not something that you really you hear much of these days.
Raising awareness is key. I think a story I have from when I was at uni was there was a guy in our dorm that had dyslexia, and no one really took it into effect except for the fact that, he's got dyslexia. He got a free Apple Mac and an iPhone because he has dyslexia, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, and like no one really delves into it as much." So like raising awareness is awesome. So for that kid that's listening or that adult that's even listening, like what would you say to them? How have you adapted to try and learn with dyslexia?
Well, my first message is you're not alone. Because no matter what struggle you're in, if that's dyslexia or if that's depression, you always think you're alone, and you're not. Look what I did. It's I struggle with my dyslexia. I made it to the NHL. You can do it. Just know that you're not alone, and you're brilliant in your own way. Just because we can't do the simple things, I promise you, there's other things we can do much better than everybody else.
Yeah.
There's always something that you're going to be amazing at, and it doesn't have to be in the books, right?
And you're right. You're 100%. But as a kid, you're graded on the books. You look around, everybody's got the books. So it's hard at a young age to be okay with that.
Yeah, and you're an awesome example because listen, you made it to the NHL, but not only that, you played for my home team, Vancouver Canucks, which I was a huge fan of you, Brent. Like, honestly,
sure, you're booing me the whole time, weren't you?
Exactly. No. Honestly, I thought you were so cool. You look so cool out there with your long hair. I think you were the first Vancouver Canuck at that time, and he was with that team with long hair, so you really stood out. But you could just see the hustle and the hard work. I had the pleasure of going to see you guys play a few times and just seeing you were always pretty much the first one out there on the ice. And I mean, you went as far as winning the Stanley Cup. Dyslexia, no dyslexia. You can achieve amazing things.
Yeah, and dyslexia, got me to the NHL and got me to win that Stanley Cup is, because we have to work harder than anybody else. It's just that, that's the way we're built. And that's all you can do is control your work ethic. And that's what I tried to control every single day and just outwork everybody.
So, Brent, I have to ask. So you guys were on the verge of winning the cup, heading into overtime. I'm curious, what was the feeling like in the room? How are you feeling?
It's thought about it, a couple times. I didn't think about it too often. You kind of wanted to stay in the moment, and it's playoff time, one bad bounce, and we game 7. So our group did a great job all year to just staying in the moment of where we were. After we won, I thought about it nonstop. But you know what? We didn't let ourselves get too far ahead of ourselves. We were pretty focused. Even then, when they tied the game up late in third period, and we came into OT. We're in the dressing room, and it was calm. It was calm as could be in there.
Yeah, you guys were a young but like dominant team. Like I remember you guys just slaying us all the time, and it was so tough to watch you guys beat us. I mean, like how many times in a row? Twice in a row, you guys beat us, right? But watching you win the Stanley Cup, hey, I couldn't be more happy because I mean, to me, I know I keep saying it, but to me, you're always a Vancouver Canuck.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
One question I had about winning the Stanley Cup, like a lot of athletes, they win the World Cup in soccer and then they're like, I'm done. Like I can't beat that, and they just kind of retire and roll off into the sunset with their medal. Did you ever feel like you wanted to do that, or did you think, now I want to win it again?
No, I wanted to play hockey as long as I could because that was the only good thing that I was good at, right? So that's where the dyslexia part of me, not finding out late. I would have played, and that's why I played through so many broken bones because that game was everything. It was my self-esteem. It was more than that game. It was a lifeline for me. So I would have played for 10 more years if I could have.
So I guess like dyslexia is like the driving force behind your whole career, essentially. Like who knows what would have happened if you like didn't have it, basically.
Well, I would be dead for sure by now. And that's the thing. Everybody just thinks it's flipping your B's and D's. 65% are addicted to drugs and alcohol. 50% of people in prison in the world have dyslexia. That's again, it's just educating and getting people to understand, what it is, and it's not a free Mac and not a free Apple phone.
So Brent, what is life like outside of hockey now? What do you do to keep yourself busy?
Yeah, the foundation is my, first and foremost. And, right now during this, quarantine, I'm on the phone probably 3 or 4 hours a day working with alcoholics and drug addicts, trying to keep them sober because it's a tough time for everybody in the world. And, especially when you're living a sober life, you built your sobriety around a routine. And now that routine's not there. There's been a lot of people relapsing. So I do that a lot. I got my hands everywhere. I got my kids graduating high school this week.
Oh wow! Congratulations!
So now off to college, so she's excited. So we got a lot of good things going on. Like I said, my life's changed a lot in the last almost 4 years.
Brent, what kind of support is available for folks that have? I know I've been kind of quiet here, but what kind of support is available to folks that have dyslexia out in the community?
You know what? There's not a lot, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do is put my name out there. And hey, you need something, reach out to me because it's for example, Kobe Bryant was dyslexic. but you didn't talk a lot about it. There's a lot of embarrassment that goes along with dyslexia. So I'm just trying to put my name out there and say, hey, kids, you need anything, you can do it too. Look at, I did it. And the more we do that, the better it's going to be. But it's a long uphill battle.
And what can we do to support? What can people do to support the foundation?
Well, just again, talk about dyslexia. Take a look at it. There's more than flipping B's and D's. You'd be very surprised. All the things that go on there, and how smart some of the richest people in the world are dyslexic. So, they have the ability to change the world. I always say, dyslexia is a learning difference, not a learning disorder. I still call it a learning disorder because we're not educated enough yet.
You've got a powerful testimony, and I know you're going to be changing a lot of lives. And I'm so grateful for that. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to reach out to you, because you're doing such incredible things, and we're so appreciative of that. And I'm hoping that the listeners could also, take part of raising awareness and go to your website. And you said it's www.brentsopelfoundation.org.
Correct. Yep.
So definitely take a look at that, and let's make a change. Brent, I want to thank you once again for being a voice in your community and spreading the awareness of dyslexia. You've been instrumental, and I'm so thankful that you were here with us today.
Thanks for having me on and just let me talk about it. Hopefully we can touch one person.
Please tell us that you'll come back again.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Awesome, Brent. You have an awesome day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brent.
Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you all for tuning in. I would like to give a special thanks to Brent Sopel and the Brent Sopel Foundation. If you would like to take part in and support and donate to the Dyslexia Awareness Program, please visit www.brentsopelfoundation.org. That's www.brentsopelfoundation.org.